Good morning, everyone. You wake up every morning believing you have more time. You convince yourself that you'll start the diet next week, chase the dream next month, make the change next year. But that's the trap, the seductive illusion of tomorrow. You think there will always be another chance, another season, another day to do what matters, yet life isn't designed that way. The clock is moving forward whether you act or not. The world doesn't pause for your hesitation. Every second you spend waiting is a second stolen from your future, and that's what makes this realization so powerful and so terrifying. There is no tomorrow. There's only now, this moment, this breath, this decision in front of you. The urgency of now is something people feel deep inside but rarely act upon. You know that sense of restlessness, that quiet guilt that whispers, you could be doing more. That's not self-criticism. That's the part of you aware of your own potential, a potential that's slipping through your fingers while you wait for the right time. The problem is that someday isn't on the calendar. You never wake up to find a perfect set of conditions laid out for you. You never reach a point where everything feels aligned and comfortable enough to begin. The human tendency to delay is rooted in fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of stepping into the unknown. But that fear disguises itself as rationality. I just need to plan more. I just need to wait until I'm ready. Yet readiness never arrives. Growth begins the moment you act in spite of uncertainty, not after it fades. Think about it. The greatest transformations in history, the moments that defined people's lives, happened not because they were perfectly prepared, but because they refused to wait any longer. Every person who has achieved something remarkable reached a breaking point, the point where later became unacceptable. They stopped treating time like an infinite resource, because it isn't. Every day that passes is a day you don't get back. You can't reclaim it, you can't relive it, you can't replace it. That's why procrastination isn't just about laziness. It's about avoidance of responsibility. It's the avoidance of facing who you could be if you stopped making excuses. Imagine the version of yourself who acts now, who wakes up with discipline, who treats today as sacred. That person exists within you, waiting to emerge. But to meet them, you have to kill the version of yourself that's comfortable with delay. You have to let go of the illusion that time will somehow make things easier. It won't. Time only amplifies what you do consistently. If you waste it, you compound regret. If you use it, you compound results. Every moment becomes a deposit either toward growth or decay. And that's the real education here. Time is not neutral. It's either working for you or against you. Every day, you're teaching your brain what kind of person you are. When you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," your mind learns to distrust your own words. You're programming yourself for hesitation. But when you act today, when you follow through immediately, you're teaching your subconscious that you are dependable, that your word matters. Confidence isn't built by thinking positively, it's built by witnessing yourself follow through, over and over, even when it's uncomfortable. That's why urgency isn't panic, it's power. Urgency doesn't mean you're rushing blindly. It means you recognize the finite nature of existence. It means you respect your limited time on this planet enough to use it intentionally. You don't need to move faster. You need to move with purpose. You need to look at the hours you've been given and realize that they are disappearing whether you use them or not. That understanding should shake you not into fear, but into clarity. Because once you truly see how temporary everything is, you begin to appreciate the sacredness of now. When you live with urgency, you stop postponing the things that matter. You stop waiting to apologize. You stop waiting to express love, to create, to build, to change. You stop letting life slip by in a haze of some days. You realize that perfection is an illusion, that it's better to start imperfectly today than to dream perfectly forever. The people who build meaningful lives are not the ones who have it all figured out. They're the ones who understand that the present moment is all they'll ever really have. And yet, acting now doesn't mean acting recklessly. It means you stop allowing fear to dictate your timeline. It means you make progress even in small ways, because progress builds momentum. A single step taken today, however small, is infinitely more valuable than 1,000 intentions left for tomorrow. The greatest obstacle isn't failure, it's hesitation. You'll find that once you begin, life starts responding to you differently. Opportunities appear not because they weren't there before, but because you finally became the kind of person who notices them. This brings us to something deeper, the idea that action itself transforms identity. You're not defined by what you think or dream about. You're defined by what you do. The gap between who you are and who you could be is measured in actions, not aspiration. And that's why the second truth is just as critical. Success, growth, and fulfillment belong to those who take immediate action despite fear, doubt, or uncertainty. Most people think they need to feel motivated before they take action. They believe they need clarity, confidence, or inspiration, but that's backward. Action precedes emotion. When you act, even in the smallest way, you begin to feel capable, you begin to feel momentum. The hardest part is always starting. Once you begin, the resistance weakens, the mind adjusts. The fear starts to shrink because it realizes you're moving forward regardless. You can't think your way into courage, you have to act your way into it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more than fear. You won't eliminate uncertainty. You'll never feel entirely ready, but that's the point. Growth only happens when you move through discomfort, not around it. If you wait until you're fearless, you'll wait forever. Every moment of hesitation reinforces the chains that hold you back. The mind learns through repetition, and hesitation repeated becomes identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who doesn't follow through. That identity is heavy, suffocating, and deceptive. It tells you maybe you're just not that type of person. But that's a lie. The truth is, you've trained yourself into an action, which means you can train yourself out of it. You can rewire your patterns by acting before your mind has time to negotiate. When you feel the impulse to move, to start the project, to make the call, to say the words, act immediately. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Use the imperfect one in front of you. Because that impulse fades fast. Every time you delay, you teach your mind that your instincts don't matter. Every time you act, you teach your mind that you are in control. This is why action is the purest form of discipline. It's the ability to override the voice that says later and replace it with now. Discipline doesn't mean punishment. It means alignment between intention and behavior. It's what transforms your vision from fantasy into reality. Without discipline, motivation is meaningless. You can feel inspired, you can dream big, but without consistent action, none of it manifests. And that's what separates dreamers from achievers: the willingness to act when it's hard, to keep going when it's inconvenient, to move forward when no one's watching. Think about what happens when you take consistent action, even small actions. You begin to trust yourself. You stop relying on external validation because you know you're doing the work. You develop internal strength, the kind that can't be shaken by temporary failure. Because here's another truth: failure is not the opposite of success. It's a prerequisite. Every person who has achieved mastery has failed more times than the average person has even tried. The difference is that they saw failure not as a verdict, but as feedback. They didn't stop when things got difficult. They adjusted, learned, and continued. And here's where it gets interesting: when you start acting despite fear, your relationship with failure changes. It stops being something to avoid and becomes something to use. You realize that every setback contains information. Every obstacle contains instruction. The person who learns fastest is the person who acts the most. The more you do, the more data you collect about what works and what doesn't. Meanwhile, the person waiting for perfect certainty remains stuck, collecting nothing but doubts. Action isn't just about movement, it's about transformation. When you take action, you don't just change your circumstances, you change yourself. You begin to see what you're capable of. You start to dismantle the false limits you've built in your mind. You discover that most of your fears were ghosts, illusions that disappeared the moment you walked toward them, and that discovery creates a ripple effect. Once you've proven to yourself that you can act without permission, you start living differently. You become dangerous not in a harmful way, but in a powerful one. You become someone who doesn't wait for life to happen, but makes life happen. That's when discipline becomes freedom, because discipline gives you control over your future. It's what allows you to say no to distractions, to delay gratification, to focus on what truly matters. People think discipline limits them, but it's the opposite. It liberates you from the chaos of impulse. It gives you the ability to direct your energy instead of wasting it. Without discipline, you're at the mercy of moods and circumstances. With it, you're in command of your destiny. And so, when we talk about taking immediate action, we're not talking about frantic movement, we're talking about alignment. The kind of action that's rooted in clarity, in purpose. The kind that transforms potential into progress. The kind that moves you closer to meaning, because meaning isn't found in daydreams or theories. It's found in the act of doing, creating, serving, building. If you understand this deeply, you realize something profound, that your life is always asking you a question. Will you act or will you wait? And how you answer that question, moment by moment, defines everything that follows. The path between who you are and who you could be is built from choices like this, not grand gestures, but daily decisions to move forward when it would be easier not to. The people who rise, who evolve, who live fully, are not necessarily the smartest or the luckiest. They are the ones who take the small, courageous actions that others postpone. They are the ones who understand that momentum is life's greatest force, and once you build it, everything begins to shift. You begin to see opportunities differently. You begin to attract people and situations that align with your drive. You begin to live with intensity, not anxiety, because you've learned to meet life head on. You've stopped negotiating with time, and instead, you've chosen to respect it. That's what separates mediocrity from mastery, not talent, not circumstance, but the decision to act now, to treat today as sacred. To refuse to let the illusion of tomorrow steal what belongs to this moment. And once you internalize that truth, the entire trajectory of your life begins to change.